Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. I am your host, Lonnie Jones. My wife Jackie and I moved to the city of Huntsville in 1986 for me to be a youth and family minister. I have been a minister since 1980. I have served in this community as a police chaplain assigned to a SWAT team since 1992, and I've been in private practice as a licensed professional counselor since 1998. I'm also an adventure educator and an avid outdoorsman. I dabble in rock climbing and I goof around with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Our life has been full of many wonderful experiences and some just outright adventures. I used to write about those things in a little church bulletin article. So now instead of asking you to read those things, we're just going to talk about them in our podcast. And as we talk about them, we're going to talk about the facts. The facts lead to concepts, and the concepts lead to application. One caveat about the facts is, for the most part, we're going to tell you the facts just as they happened. But every now and then, we're going to tell you the way other people have told us they remember it happening with a little bit of embellishment. It's all good, clean fun and for educational purposes. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy Keeping Up with Jones. Faulkner University announces a 60% tuition discount for members of the Church of Christ. Now, there are some guidelines. This 60% tuition reduction is applicable to adult undergraduate Bible degrees or graduate Bible degrees from the Curley Graduate School of Theology in the VP Black College of Biblical Studies. You must satisfy all admission requirements and maintain satisfactory academic progress. You must remain continuously enrolled, including summers, until the completion of the degree. You must provide a letter from an elder or minister, preferably on church letterhead, verifying that you're an active member of a Church of Christ congregation prior to your initial enrollment. This offer applies to adult undergraduate degrees such as biblical studies, youth and family ministry tracks, and it also includes graduate degrees. And those are the Master of Arts in Biblical Studies, the Master of Arts in Family Life Ministry, or a Master of Theology, and it also applies to the PhD in Biblical Studies. For undergraduate inquiries, please contact Adult Enrollment, 334-386-7140, 334-386-7140, or Adult Enrollment at Faulkner edu. That is Adult Enrollment at faulkner.edu. For graduate inquiries, please call 334-386-7539, 334-386-7539. Graduate enrollment at faulkner.edu. That is graduate enrollment at faulkner.edu. Faulkner University is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. TKM Incorporated in Moss, Tennessee is a construction company that specializes in erosion control, seeding, and soil, hydroseeding, hydromulch, minor excavation, and silt fence. They also provide traffic control and construction signs. Their business is keeping people safe, but their passion, their mission, is they wish that all men could be saved. TKM has adopted the nickname the King's Men because as they serve you, they also serve the King. If they could provide any of their services for you, please contact them at 931-243-3958. That is 931-243-3958. Or you can contact them on the net at tkminc2001 at twlakes.net. That is tkminc2001 at twlakes.net. TKM Incorporated is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. What we believe affects what we see. More often than what we see affects what we believe, or at least what we believe has an effect on what we want and or choose to see. It was a freshman English writing assignment. It was a research paper, and the English professor at my college probably had hopes that these young adults in his class would be sophisticated and mature. My paper was on Sasquatch. Now, I personally don't believe in the large bipedal primate roaming around the woods of North America. I did see something when I was a kid. I couldn't identify it. I don't know what it was. It was not a person. It was not a bear, but I don't know what it was. I have a friend named Robert Swain, and this is the same guy that I was in Tupelo, Mississippi with, and he's a Bigfoot researcher. And he's been out looking for them, and he said on multiple occasions he's seen something. I have another acquaintance who lived in a little place in Alabama called Rabbit Town, and he tells me that one night there was a disturbance with his horses, and he went outside his domicile, and he turned the corner of the building, and he was a arm's length and a 6-inch Colt python away from something that was large, covered in brown fur, and had red eyes. I was speaking at a church one time, and I do this presentation about perceptions, and I usually make this, it's an attempt to be humorous, but I say, no one who doesn't believe in Bigfoot has ever seen him. And I went on with my presentation, and then I was sitting at lunch. And as I was sitting at lunch, this gentleman leaned over the table. I'm on one side of the table, he's on the other. I'm sitting down, he's standing up, and he leans over the table, places these huge, massive hands on the table, and he says, "I seen it." And I said, I'm sorry. And I looked up, and he was visibly shaken, and he was shaking. He said, "I seen one." And again, I said, "Well, I'm sorry. When I was a boy, I was squirrel hunting on Keel Mountain, and one walked down below me while I was sitting on a terrace. It was lower than me, but it looked at me right in the eye. It looked me eye to eye, and I've never been back." He saw something, and it still frightens him to this day. I had Keith Wooden come out. He's with Aerial Game Recovery and Analysis, and he was going to help me find a deer. He put this drone in there, and I was super unfamiliar with drone technology. I didn't really know what they were capable of, but this drone had thermal imaging. This drone had the ability to zoom in and see detailed pictures with its camera. And as he flew over this piece of property that I hunt and said, "Well, there's a deer, and there's an armadillo, and there's a buck, and there's a deer laying down." With that drone technology, if there was something out there roaming around in the woods, then we don't need a game camera to find it. We've got drones. And if there was something out there with a heat signature that big, I believe a drone would prove its existence. But lots of people say they have seen something. And the ones who believe, they say they have seen what they want to believe. The professor read my rough draft. He was both interested and amused that as part of my evidences, as part of my sightings, that I used a piece from the Army Corps of Engineers manual, or a little pamphlet that they hand out to engineers that are working in the Northwest. And it lists animals that one might encounter, everything from the wolf to the coyote to certain kinds of snakes to bears and Bigfoot. Listed there in the Army Corps of Engineer little pamphlet said, if you see a creature like this, this is what it is. Now, they don't exist, but they talk about that you might run into one if you're working for the Army Corps of Engineers. It's illegal to shoot one in lots of states, but they don't exist. Time passed, and I turned in my paper, and in a matter of convenience and coincidence, it snowed on campus. We probably got about 4 inches of snow. Robert Swain, my friend who is a Bigfoot researcher, was interested in Bigfoot in those days, and he had a large pair of wooden feet that he carved out of these really thick boards, and he had these straps attached to them so that one could wear them on their feet. And in the cover of darkness, I walked across the English professor's yard in the newly fallen snow. He never said a word about it. We came and went to class on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for freshman English, and nobody ever said a word about it. Finally, he returned all the papers. My research paper got a B and a simple note, and it said, "One would think that an animal with feet that large would have a longer stride length." I don't know what he was referring to. Had he been convinced by my paper If he had read my paper, he'd read my research, and he'd made the decision, I decided to believe in Bigfoot, then the Mother May I baby Bigfoot steps would have been convincing evidence. But he didn't believe, and the footprints in his yard didn't mean anything except a short dude wearing big feet had walked across his yard. What we believe affects what we see more often than what we see affects what we believe. Or at least what we believe affects what we want to see. We believe what we see or see what we want to believe. We believe what we see and see what we believe. I was really interested in college in mental phenomenon. I'd been doing some research on hypnosis and been doing the research of, positive thinking. I had even looked into some of the phenomenons of psychic phenomenon. And we watched this mentalist. We watched this guy, this illusionist named Gil Eagles. I was in the audience, and for whatever reason, I was chosen from the audience, and I came up on the from the audience, and he asked me to produce a dollar bill. Well, I had a dollar bill in my wallet, and I pulled it out. He takes the dollar bill and he writes on it with a Sharpie marker. Then he gave it back to me, and he asked me to fold it in half, and he asked me to fold the half in half, and he asked me to fold the half in half again, and then he placed this dollar bill into his pocket. Then he asked me to place silver dollars over his eyes. He asked me to put a sleep mask on top of him and then wrap his head in duct tape, and I did that. After I got him completely blindfolded, he withdrew a dollar bill from his pocket. He unfolded it and handed it to me, and there on the unfolded dollar bill was his name written across it. And as I concentrated on the serial number, he recited the serial number to me. Now, as I have pursued my own amateur magician's hobby and learned to do some sleight of hand and some tricks, I realized how he pulled this thing off. You see, he had a dollar bill that he had folded exactly the same way he asked me to fold it. He had already written on it with a Sharpie, and he had it in his pocket, and all he did was switch dollar bills on me. He didn't concentrate and read a serial number he'd never seen. He didn't take a random dollar bill out of an audience. All he did was switch dollar bills. He memorized the number on his bill, and all he had to do was convince me that the bill he had was the bill I'd given him. And at the time that he did it, I was amazed. At the time that he did it, I was shocked. At the time that he did it, I wanted to believe. But now I just kind of feel cheated. Because not only was it not a very amazing trick, it was kind of a cheap trick. All you did was switch dollar bills. People who kill snakes only kill copperheads and water moccasins. Now, that's not because the only snakes in the world are copperheads and water moccasins. It's not because the only snakes in the woods and the only snakes at the river are copperheads and water moccasins. But the people who kill snakes and fear snakes only see poisonous ones. Well, I saw this snake and it was a copperhead. I saw this snake and it was a water moccasin. We have some traditional wisdom for identifying venomous snakes. And yes, I made the distinction. There are no such thing as poisonous snakes. You can eat all of them you want to. They won't hurt you. They don't all taste good, but they won't hurt you because snakes aren't poisonous. Snakes are venomous. Venom is injected. Poison is ingested. But we have this folk wisdom. We have these traditions. We have these well-meaning people who said, well, now here's an easy way to tell if a snake is venomous or not. You look at the shape of the head. You can look at the slit of the pupil. You can look at the canthal ridge above the eye. You can look at the heat-sensing pit on the face, and you can tell if it's a good snake or a bad snake. Well, unfortunately, not all venomous snakes follow these general rules. Coral snakes don't have pits. Coral snakes don't have cat eye slits in their eyes. None of the venomous snakes overseas in Cambodia and in some of the jungles follow any of these rules. The only real way to identify a venomous snake is to absolutely know the markings and the absence or presence of fangs. Now, to find out if it's got fangs or not, you got to get pretty close to it. You got to hold it behind the head. open the mouth and pry those little hinged hypodermic needles out of its face. But if you find fangs, you've got a venomous snakes. And then there's something about if you look at the belly of a snake and you go about 3/4 down the snake and you find this little plate called the anal plate. As you get south of that toward the tail, venomous snakes have a different plate than non-venomous snakes. The belly scales will either be segmented or they'll be straight across. And that's really the only way to tell a venomous snake from a non-venomous snake. Some people who hate snakes are only looking for the things that give them permission to hate them and kill them. We tend to believe what we see, and we tend to want to see what we believe. Seeing is believing, but only to the extent when we are able to see the truth. If we don't see the truth, then what we believe or want to believe is just not true. If we don't see the truth, then what we believe or say we saw is an interpretation because it has been filtered by our beliefs, and then that becomes our truth. Truth does not come with personal possessive pronouns, and pronouns are only as good as the truth. When a person does what he or she thinks is best for an organization, for a relationship, for a church, a friendship, a sports team, a policy, or a country, there will be different opinions. I hear preachers compared to cult leaders. I hear politicians compared to dictators. I hear parents called abusive, and I hear helping professionals called uncaring. And you get as many different opinions as you have the people who can espouse them. But opinion and truth are different. Opinions based on truth is one thing, and truth based on opinion is another thing. The only quote unquote evidence for Bigfoot is what people say they've seen or believe they saw, and lots and lots and lots of shaky, grainy photos and videos. You'd think if we can read the title off of a golf ball from a satellite in space, we could probably find a 8-foot tall, 600-pound gorilla walking around in North America. There is an explanation for all magic. You see, it's not magic, it's called illusion. It's tricking the eye. When you see it, you have to say, I don't know how he did it, but I know he didn't really do it. He didn't make anything appear. He didn't make anything disappear. He doesn't make things float. I see what it looks like, but what it looks like is an illusion. The only honest way to evaluate people, professions, policies, or politics is to look at the objective evidence. We can't just look at the isolated examples that are open to interpretation. We can't just look at the stuff that confirms what we want to see, our bias or our belief. We can't just look at the stuff that serves as a proof or a proof text for what we want to believe. We must see the facts as truth and not the facts as proof. My favorite saying about statistics is, figures don't lie, but liars can figure. There's a snake, it's called a green water snake, and if you look at him pretty closely, he's a pretty convincing stunt double for a water moccasin. He lives in the water, but it's not a water moccasin. It looks a lot like a water moccasin. It has the right color, it has a triangle head, but it's not a water moccasin. A faulty assessment of the snake does not change the truth. How one feels about it, or snakes in general, doesn't change the truth. What we've always been told on how to identify one doesn't change the truth. And just because you don't like it, or you're afraid of it, or you just can't tell the difference in it, doesn't change the truth. One's fear doesn't change the truth. Lack of knowledge doesn't change the truth. And just because you can't understand why somebody is or is not upset about the thing doesn't change the truth. truth is not about opinion, and opinion is not truth. And if I tell somebody it's a beneficial snake, it doesn't make anybody feel better if they are emotionally invested in hating the snake. If I say it's a beneficial snake, it doesn't make anybody feel better if the rats that the snake gets rid of are the rats the other person likes, the other person supports, the other person agrees with, or the other person approves. Be careful in what you see. Be more careful in letting what you see confirm what you believe. And be careful letting what you believe confirm what you want to see. Don't make people who tell the truth your enemy. And don't make an enemy out of the truth. Using the tool of shortwave radio, World Christian Broadcasting literally covers the world every day with the gospel. They use 2 large curtain antennas. One is located in Anchor Point, Alaska, and the other in Madagascar. They send out messages that are recorded at their international home in Franklin, Tennessee. They make available 40 hours of broadcast every day. The broadcasts are made in English, Chinese, Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, Korean, English for Africa, and Arabic. They would love for your group to visit them. You can bring your ladies group, your youth group, or your men's group. Just give them a call at 615-371-8707, 615-371-8707, or you can go to worldchristian.org, find the Donate Here button, and make a financial contribution to support this work that literally covers the world every day with the gospel. World Christian Broadcasting, in cooperation with Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure.